This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. That last verse is pretty captivating, isn't it? Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I. Send me." When I was 17, I was dating this boy, and you know how it is. You don't want to go to your house because your mom will do something embarrassing like bake cookies. And you don't want to go to his house because, frankly, his parents scare the heck out of you. So we had to find somewhere else to go. So we would just start walking. Every Sunday afternoon, we would start at my house and we would just go. Good weather, bad weather, it didn't matter. We were together. And most of the time, we were so busy talking that we didn't pay any attention to the path we were taking. One time, we found ourselves a mile outside town, surrounded by empty fields. We looked at each other. How did we get here? How did I get here? Do you ever ask that question of yourself, of your life? And maybe it was a decisive moment. You remember what it was that you decided that got you where you are right now. Or maybe it's just a series of muddy twists along the way. Somehow you got here, to this point in your life. Now, do you remember how it got started? Maybe you were eager like Isaiah. You said, "Here am I, send me." I want to be a teacher, a nurse, a lawyer, a musician, a pilot, a social worker. I want to help people with their finances. I want to buy that business. I want to work for this company. Here am I. Send me. Yes, I will spend my life with that person, to honor and to cherish, to love and to keep in sickness and in health. Yes, I will raise these children. Yes, I will remain single, pour out my love not on people who live in my home, but on people who live in someone else's home. Build a different kind of family. Yes, I'll stay in Toledo, make a life here. Yes, I will move to Toledo. Yes, I will go to UT. I'll try that major out, see where it goes. Here am I. Send me. You said yes. And then other forks in the road came along, other opportunities to make a decision, and maybe you said yes to some and no to others. Maybe some of the decisions you made along the way you regret. Who knows? However it happened, here you are now, a year later, or 10, or 20, or 50, or 70 years later. Maybe you wonder, is that the right path? You wonder, how did I get here? What if I had gone somewhere else? What if I'd done it differently? What would my life look like? Am I really making a difference? Is this really the best possible life for me? God, did I miss some signs, some signals along the way? Sometimes this life fits me really well and it seems very fine, but then there are these times, God, when it doesn't seem to fit very well, and I wonder. Now, maybe you don't. Maybe you are fairly confident in the choices that you have made along your life. Your life fits you well, and you don't wonder. But if you ever do, you are not alone. Isaiah, the prophet who we read about today, wondered too. He must have. Because we have this amazing passage in which God calls him, "I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lofty, and the hem of his robe filled the temple." It's this amazing and powerful opportunity to see God up close and personal. And there are these creatures with 6 wings, and holy, holy, holy fills the temple. And then on top of that, his sin is removed and he is made clean. How could he do anything but say, "Yes, here am I, send me"? After that powerful experience. So he says yes. As you have said yes at times to some things. And what does he get? Does he get a lifetime of amazing God's throne room moments? No, he gets a lifetime of drudge work. There is no other name for it. If you look at the work to which Isaiah was called over the course of his lifetime, it must have been really disheartening. Again, this was a time when the kingdom of Israel was far past its prime. There had been a civil war that had torn the country apart and had weakened both the northern and the southern kingdom, which is what it divided into. And now there were these bigger powers like the Assyrians breathing down their necks. They might be taken over any day. Disaster was at hand. And the kings who were ruling the land were ineffective leaders, evil people. And in the midst of this, Isaiah is trying to do the right thing. He's trying to make a difference. He is preaching that to people to come and turn back to God. And he's warning them of the impending disaster that's coming, and no one listens. In fact, it's the opposite. Things actually get worse because of his preaching. God says to him, you know what, you're preaching to this people who is blind and deaf, and your preaching is going to make them more blind and more deaf. Not a single person will turn back to God, to me, because of what you say. I need to bring them to total destruction. So your preaching is going to have no effect. That was his whole life. Decades of work and nothing to show for it. He must have wondered, what was the point? How did I get here? Why did I say yes? This life of mine, what on earth is it worth? There's a speech in Shakespeare's Macbeth, Act 5. It always haunts me on those gray and lonely days when I wonder if I'm making any difference at all. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets its hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. I bet Isaiah could resonate with that. My life, he might have thought, is this just brief candle, a tale told by an idiot, signifying nothing. But of course, Isaiah couldn't see the end of his story. He died 700 years too early. He didn't get to see that a baby would be born in Bethlehem who would bring new meaning to the words that he had spoken, all those words that no one paid attention to during his life. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace. Those are Isaiah's words, spoken 700 years before Jesus was born. Now, at the time when Isaiah spoke them, he was talking about a different baby, a king that was living during his day. But those words applied to more than one king, didn't they? Those words described Jesus of Nazareth, God become human. Behold, the young woman is with child and shall give birth to a son and shall name him Emmanuel, God with us. That's also Isaiah. Isaiah's preaching, it seems, made all the difference. The book of Isaiah is quoted in the New Testament more than any other book except the Psalms. Jesus quotes Isaiah. God did amazing things through Isaiah, but Isaiah didn't get to see the end of that story. You don't get to see the end either, right? You're in the middle of it. Your life is this beautiful brief candle, lighting up the darkness for just a short time. What impact does that make? Only God can say. You can't write your life off until God is done with it. Sometimes our lives don't seem to fit right, and we wonder, how did we get here? And we wonder, is this life of mine just a tale told by an idiot? And all the while, as we're wondering, God is taking the pieces of our lives and making beauty, because that's what God does. God takes things that are ugly and makes beauty. God takes death and brings it back to life. Sometimes it just takes 700 years. Now, I tried and thought and tried to find a story to illustrate this point, some modern-day Isaiah to put in your memory bank. But all I found were those stories of famous people who weren't appreciated until they died, like Edgar Allan Poe or Sylvia Plath. And that isn't what I'm getting at. I'm not trying to say, just wait, they'll appreciate you when you're dead. Or my head kept going to the closing credits of It's a Wonderful Life. You know, bells ringing and angels getting their wings and George realizing that his life really is worth something after all. That isn't quite what I'm getting at either. Both of those kinds of stories are about what people did, what they accomplished. Edgar Allan Poe was a great writer, he was, and George Bailey saved a whole town, he did. This isn't about what you accomplish. This is about what God accomplishes through you, and that's such a different thing. Isaiah teaches that you matter and your life matters not because you have talent like Edgar Allan Poe or you change a town like George Bailey, but because God makes it matter. God brings people and opportunities into your life. God invites you to say, yes, here am I, send me. And then God uses that to change lives. What is the greatest commandment? The disciples ask Jesus. And Jesus doesn't say to them, thou shalt go out and make a difference. Thou shalt go out and do great things. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. We are called to love and share the love that God has given us. Here am I, send me. However you got here, whether you like it or not, God gives you love and asks you to share it. Here am I, send me. Wherever you are sent, whether you like it or not, God gives you love and asks you to share it. Only God is responsible for what happens after that. Here's a small example of where I've seen this lived out this week. So you may know that the Ottawa Hills boys soccer team is pretty good. They actually went to the Final Four this week. We have 2 freshmen who are on the team, Noah Dewhurst and Garrett Robinson. And I can only imagine, I've never been on a soccer team that was going to the Final Four, but I can only imagine that it was a pretty exciting time. Mark Robinson said, this could be their only shot at state. And they went on Wednesday and they played their hearts out and they lost that semifinal match. So imagine all that hope and excitement and energy and then a long ride back to Toledo. But then this is what Noah Dewhurst posts on his Facebook page later. He says, it was a heck of a season. I am proud to be part of such a team. Great job, guys. That's a little bit of what I'm talking about. Noah and Garrett may not be happy about where here is right now, but they choose to respond out of love and to live love and to share that with others. It's a little bit of what I'm talking about. And really, maybe you don't even need me to tell you that story or any story, because maybe you already know some. Maybe you know somebody who has set their heart on something good, something they felt God was calling them to, a business, a class in school, a relationship, a marriage, a career, only to bump up against failure again and again. And then somehow that failure doesn't destroy them. Maybe you watched someone struggle through dark and foggy times and still keep an open heart, able to love through it all. Maybe you have been on the receiving end of that love, so you know what it's like to have your life changed. Not because someone was perfect or successful or without flaws, but because they had love to share that God had given them, and they shared it. Here am I. Send me. Your life matters. Your crazy mess of a life matters because God created you and loves you. You are beloved, child of God. You are being used by God in ways you can't even dream. So just allow God's love and strength to pour through you and be sent. Amen.